Thank you for joining us. Gen Z are coming of age and they represent the engine of consumption and innovation in the next decades. According to an analysis conducted by Goldman Sachs, American people from Gen Z tend to be more pragmatic about money and more entrepreneurial than the millennials. The development of technology also stamps mobility as Gen Z's consumption habits. While in China, its younger generation is more culturally confident and actively seeking brands that align with Chinese identity. Meanwhile, as the oldest members of Gen Z are starting their careers and becoming more economically independent, they have shown a preference for local products, and this has revitalized many local Chinese brands. On the other side of the Pacific, Gen Z on the American continent has been defined as the most distinctive group ever, with much more varied ethnicity makeup than their predecessors. Now, Gen Zers on our track to be the most well-educated generation yet, as well as digital natives who have little or no memory of the world as it existed before smartphones. Now, with the effect of the global pandemic, Gen Z peers into an uncertain future instead of looking ahead to a world of opportunities. However, young entrepreneurs are trying to change the world by their own hands. According to the New York Times, startup boom in the pandemic is growing stronger, at least temporarily broken out of a decades-long startup slump in the U.S. The data of U.S. Census Bureau shows that Americans filed paperwork to start 4.3 million businesses last year, a 24% increase from the year before. Success as an entrepreneur requires bringing solutions to market, and too many startups today are solutions in search of a problem. So, what problems do our young entrepreneurs want to tackle? Well, different research institutes classify all kinds of best industries for starting a business in 2020. What do people in the front line want to say about business trend in this world? I'm now honored to invite 9 trendsetting young entrepreneurs today to join me and bring you the special program, New Vane, Trendsetting Gen Z and Brand Resurgence. All right, what a beautiful setting we've got here. Let me first introduce to you my awesome panel. We've got Mr. Blake Janiton, founder of Riverside, joining us here in Beijing. Great to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Jesse Young, partner of Easy Transfer. Welcome.
Hello, great to be here.
And Ms. Zhang Xing, brand manager of Kli. Thank you so much for coming.
Pleasure, thank you.
And Mr. Stephen Bai, founder and CEO of Sen City. Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And Mr. Yu Zhou, co-founder and president of Light Chaser Animation Studios. Appreciate you joining us, Mr. Yu.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
And we also have a number of aspiring scholars and also entrepreneurs joining us online from overseas. They are Mr. Zach Duckwale, founder of Young China Group. Mr. Duckwale is now joining us from Mexico. Thank you so much for making time for us while you are there. All right, and also joining us, Ms. Ali Liang, CEO of Orline & Co., joining us from New York City. Good to see you there, Ali. Can't wait to learn more about your company story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. And Professor David Lindenbauer, Assistant Professor at the Human-Computer Interaction Institute at Carnegie Mellon University. Great to see you, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
Professor is joining us from Pittsburgh. And lastly, but not least, Ms. Monica Chen, Director of Career Contact, joining us from Singapore. Good to see you there, Monica.
Hi, thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome to you all. And we've also got a great audience here with us. So without further ado, let's get started. Our first part, Gen Z sets the trends. So a recent article from CNBC actually mentioned that Gen Zers, they're driving the consumption and the growth of Chinese domestic brands. Why don't I put the question to you, Blake, first of all, because your company helped with Chinese SMEs with their branding strategies, their marketing strategies going overseas. So you've seen the rise of these Chinese brands. How are they gaining popularity among young people?
Well, I think the most important thing is to start with a case. So look at the case of, for example, Perfect Diary. This is a really good example of a new Chinese brand. And really what's driving this and what's attractive, the most attractive to Gen Zers is simply quality. If you look at the past, over the past 20 years, and especially in the last 5 to 10 years, you've really started to see an upswing in the quality of Chinese brands. So this, in my opinion, has been the single largest driving factor in bringing Gen Zers in China, but anywhere really, but especially in China, towards domestic products.
Better quality, that's the key. And Jiansheng, also, your company has made sustainable clothing, is all about sustainable clothing, eco-friendliness, right? And this is a born in China brand. How have you seen the transformation of Chinese brand? Because you've been in the industry for 10 years.
Yes, actually the fashion industry is very competitive, and nowadays consumers have access to local and international brands, maybe tens of thousands of brands they have very easy access to. And I really do agree with Zach that quality is really important. When our consumers recognize good design, that is an immediate drive for their making a purchase decision.
All right. And also, Professor Zach is joining us online. Now, Zach, you write this book on China's youth. You've studied them extensively, right? How different is China's Gen Z generation from, say, in the America? Is Zach still with us? I think Zach has just dropped offline. All right, so why don't I put that question to you, Professor Lindenbauer? How do you see the difference, or how similar is it for that matter? Do you see, Gen Z in China and in America?
For me, as a non-US or non-Chinese citizen, being from Europe, that's an interesting question because I try to see it on a somewhat global scale. I think that a lot of what we're seeing is essentially an exaggeration or it's a strengthening of what we've seen before. So millennials like myself, right, we are already interconnected. And this is going to be even more with Gen Z that have a variety of technologies at hand. And they're using them in different ways and just more integrated in their daily lives.
Right. And Professor Lindenbauer,
true across all continents.
Also, Professor, help us understand the relationship between tech and young people, right? Because technology nowadays, they are ubiquitous, and Gen Zers, they are digital natives, right? Technology is everywhere in their social lives, from shopping online to socializing online, and you've been striving to study the interconnection between human and the digital world. What kind of technology should we build, that goes beyond just the flat screen display of PCs and smartphones? Well, our young people, they are seeking more interconnected or intimate communication with the digital world. And also, what kind of technology do you think would dominate Gen Z's habit, shopping online, how they play online, how they socialize online?
That's a fantastic question. So I try to think of it in 3 different ways. One is we have the input that we take and that we use then later to build any kind of technology. This might be sensing, this might be personalized information. How do we empower users in order to tell technology what they actually want? And then the second part is beyond input is analysis. Do we analyze this data in a privacy preserving and transparent way in order to make it beneficial for users? And lastly, what you hinted at is the output technology. So we currently have smartphones and desktop computers, and we're going to see a larger mix of different devices for different usage scenarios. So if I would like to be immersed in technology, immersed in shopping, in movies, I might resort to a virtual reality headset. If I want to have something that's more integrated, I might have an augmented reality headset that allows me to see the real world, but at the same time, add a layer of digital information that is ubiquitous in the background, but still beneficial for users.
And Professor, while you were speaking, I see Stephen nodding his head. This is also your area of expertise, right? Tech. You're tech savvy. And some analysts actually point out that millennials are the ones who are driving the development of modern cities because they seek more interconnected life more than any other generations. And while it's that Generation Z, Gen Zers, they are more seeking of an individualized life. What do you think they want to seek in urban life with this all internet connectivity?
Cool. Well, I reckon it is pretty important to understand that 80% of the world's population is expected to live in urban environments. and majority of that would be young people, putting a lot of pressure onto the existing urban infrastructures and services. But they don't care about technology. They care about the actual experiences. Individualized life is individualized experience. If we provide great experiences, then we provide, a more dynamic way for them to express their individualities. And that's why I believe great experiences will foster more interesting urban interactions between people and smarter cities.
And Jianxing, earlier we talked about your products, right? Why do you see there's a preference for sustainable clothing, sustainable fashion products today among young people?
We really see the growth of interest in sustainable fashion apparel garments among young people, especially Gen Z consumers. In general, our consumers, they have a better education background. They probably lived or studied abroad, and they have the knowledge of what is a good product. And they have the education that backs up their need for more sustainable products. And we feel that they really sincerely care about the environment. I think that is the combination of top to bottom education and education from different brands in the fashion industry.
And how big of an impact, I should say, would you think that this kind of buying behavior will have eventually on our environment and on the earth?
I can provide two examples. One is that we use a lot of organic cotton, or you call it green cotton in China. That means that cotton are grown in the soil that is free of chemical pesticide and chemical fertilizers for at least 3 years. And this way, in turn, help keep the soil healthy, and that actually reduce the use of the need for chemical fertilizers and reduce the water consumption for irrigation to at least to 90%, as much as 90%. And another example comes from our partner, who they are a biodynamic farm based in Sichuan, and then they literally turned 1,000 mu of barren mountains into like fertile soil within 10 years with this biodynamic method to produce silk. So it is actually possible to make the environment better through production.
Wow, very impressive. And these products Gen Z are seeking now are so different. It's not only sustainable fashion products, it's also skincare products, cosmetics, right? Ali, you are from this industry. I mean, the cosmetic industry is now going through this green chemistry revolution, right? We see natural product sales surge in 21 countries for 10 consecutive years, including China and the United States. And your product is one actor in this great tide. I mean, why are natural products gaining so much popularity among young Gen Zers? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think, so for Gen Z, natural is really their new normal. The biggest consideration for them when they're buying beauty products is that there's natural, non-toxic ingredients. And I think this just really stems from the availability of knowledge nowadays. They're the most self-educated cohort. Knowledge is it's just so empowering for them. And you have these beauty review websites like Beautypedia, EWG Skin Deep Database that have reviews on millions of products and their ingredient safety, and also the science behind the skincare. And I think that really just makes them so much more users and a lot more discerning for natural products over previous generations.
It is a very interesting trend, isn't it? And we've got a study here from McKinsey. I'm going to read the conclusion to you. So Chinese Gen Zers, they show great inclination towards buying online compared with their peers in other countries. And according to the study, 47% of Chinese Gen Zers strongly agreed to browse in store but buy online, and this number is below 30% in South Korea, in Japan, in Australia, so much lower, and Chinese Gen Zers are less supportive towards browse online, but buy in store. They do the opposite, right? And now with the number of 25% falling behind the 31% of Australia, meantime, Gen Z in China takes another lead on browsing in the store and online, but buy online. They just prefer to buy online. That's your buying habit. And 4% more of the interviewees agree with this option compared to the second highest, Australia. And Australian Gen Z leads two categories with ending with buying in store. So, Jesse, now, you are a Gen Zers yourself, right? Talk to us more about it. Since Gen Zers, they were born digital, do you think they're more, including yourself, are more dependent on tech or more prone to human action than we think?
Yeah, I agree. Because when we see the consumption market in China, we can see three major changes. The first one is about the population. Actually, we can see Gen Z is taking the power of the major consumption power. Actually, we can see Gen Z is growing up and they are becoming gradually economically independent, so they become the major consumption power. And the second trend is the sales channel in China changes a lot. As you mentioned, Gen Z was born with the digital terminals.
Right.
They were born with iPad, born with smartphones,
They're
tablets.
digital natives, right?
Yes. So we can see more interesting content appeared online, especially in Bilibili, in Douyin, in TikTok, in everywhere.
Absolutely.
So that's where they build up their perception on those online platforms, and then it tricks them to use those technological platforms to shop online. And I believe the third major change is about the product itself. More and more products with technological advances appear in China, in US, and everywhere. And Gen Z is born with them. They are very adaptive with those technological advances. So I think they are more prone to technology, definitely, yes.
Wow. Is Zach with us online now? Zach, can you hear me? Zach Duckwild? All right, I think we've lost Zach for a moment. So let me put the question to you, Monica. You're from the education industry, isn't it? Gen Z, they face lower rates of college acceptance rates. And now people say that they face the competition of educational resources at a much earlier stage. How is that trend impacting your industry and your company?
Right, thank you for the question. So it is true. Now selective colleges, at least in the United States, have acceptance rates of below 10%, and even public state universities are, already below 20%. So it is gradually decreasing, and there is certainly more competition for access to quality education resources at school and outside of school. But I guess that's putting in perspective if we're if success for education is, higher education or college. But I think Gen Z students are also way more open-minded these days because not everyone, sees college as an end in itself. And I think, Gen Zers have a lot more information about, online, about career pathways, skill sets they want to build, academic topics they're interested in pursuing. There are just many other avenues of achieving the skill sets that they want to achieve. It could be through internships, side projects, and we also see the rise of boot camps right now, and even collaborations between universities and boot camps. So I think Gen Zers are a lot more proactive at seeking internships because they're aware that higher ed or college won't prepare them 100% for industry. From my experience, I see undergrad students now, they're doing internships nearly every semester instead of, I would say, not 10 years ago, maybe just a few years ago, more students only do summer internships. I see a lot of more students doing like
I'm going to
co-ops
hang
and
up so I can
everything
listen.
now. So
I'll let you know if it
yeah,
works.
I think this in some way impacts my company in the sense of where we are going to head towards, because at Career Contact, we want to provide high school students and tertiary students with digital skills training. We provide them with opportunities to work on digital challenges so that, when they are potentially applying to internships later, they have at least a portfolio that, that they can showcase. And it's not like they get stuck in a chicken and egg cycle where, you want to apply for an internship, but the internship asks you for prior experience. So yeah, I think there is a lot of growth now. And because Gen Zers are interested in these opportunities, I think we're going on the right direction.
I'm hearing words that Zach is back with us, but this time he's joining us on the phone. So Zach, if you can hear me, talk to us about the study that you have conducted on Chinese youth. Now, people say that the new generation is nor thrifty, nor like saving because they are born to a prosperous China. Is that so? Zach, do you got me? All right, I don't think we've got Zach. Oh yeah, Zach is still with us on the phone? Okay, let me try again, Zach. If you can hear me, talk to us about the concept that these new generation, the Gen Zers, they are born to a prosperous China. That's far. It's really incubate their consuming behaviors. They don't like saving. They're nor thrifty. Is that so? Is that also your observation? I don't think Zach is ready for us. All right, let me bring in Mr. Yu Zhou for our discussion, right? This is the most exciting part because I'm such a fan of your movie. You're from the animated movie industry, and Chinese animated movies, they were mainly targeting family audiences and children back in the 2010s, but your movie changed everything. It kind of revolutionized the industry. I love the movie, The White Snake, and also The Green Snake. They have such refreshing storylines, and also they have this universal value, I think, that really resonates with a global audience. Even you don't have a Chinese background, you can understand it, and you can really resonate with them, right? So now the audience of these animated movies are changing from children to young adults. Why is this change in orientation happening?
Thank you so much for the high remark of our films. First of all, like she said, we made the change about 5 years ago, because the first three films we made are family oriented. Back in 2016, we switched to the young adults because we realized that the main force of the movie goers, they are the Gen Z or a little bit elder. The average age of moviegoers in China probably also elsewhere is 24 years old. So also on the other side, if you look at our team, the creators are also very young. But now we already have probably quite a few Gen Z creators among our team about 200. Wow. So back in 2016, our first film, White Snake, targeting young adults, turned out to be quite successful out of our expectation. We thought it would be different, but there'll be quite a lot of touching stories how the audience loved our film. So 3 years later, we also made the sequel, The Green Snake. And now, so it turned out that the path is the right one. Also, our films based on the Chinese traditional story, but we also create a new world, new story. So that's the path we took.
Yeah, I saw some of those time-lasting themes and universal values like love, courage, sisterhood in your movies. What kind of other themes do you think that the animated movie industry will explore in the future?
Anything positive, I would say.
Anything that's possible.
Positive, exactly. So you look at stories. The first one, young little dog girls, it's about courage. About everybody, no matter if they're kids or adults, you should, when you have major changes, you should have the courage to face it, not to avoid it. Second, I made a lot of commercials about promotion of our films. The second one called T-Pad, it's about friendship. It's a little robot and also a T-Pad. I would like to mention the third one called Cats. Cats and the Peachtopia. We coined the word Peachtopia based on the Tao Hua Yuan. So the film about dreams. Also, it's a family, it's a father and the son story. Very touching. By the way, the film, you can see it in more than 90 countries.
Wow.
It was distributed very widely in more than 90 countries in local language. So that's something really we can be very proud of. As you said, it's a universal story, very touching. Also, we believe, although Chinese animation story, CG animation, we started late, probably only 10 years ago, but now we are catching up very fast.
And
Luckily,
you're also working on a new movie, right?
Yeah,
That's going to be
absolutely.
releasing
Next summer.
Next year. Next summer.
Stay tuned.
All right. Before I move on to our next segment, we have prepared a little something for you guys. And I'm going to need my friend Gary help me with it. Gary, please help me with this. So have a look at this. Guess what it is. Take a guess. This is not a game machine. It's actually a garbage bin. Right? And this is the brainchild of one of our guests here. But take a guess. I'm not going to reveal who is behind this brilliant idea just for now because I want to show you what it can do. All right, so I'm going to grab a piece of garbage here. I've got a plastic bottle. And when you throw this piece of garbage in, look what it does. I score a slam dunk. So it speaks to you, right? The garbage can is interactive. All right, so this is called a Tetra bin. And this is actually invented by Steven and his team. Come on over here, Steven. Talk to us more about it. Because you talked about this concept of turning a city into a playground,
That's
right? And
That's
this Tetra bin is the first step of it.
Definitely.
How did you come up with that idea?
Yeah, so first of all, we're definitely not a trash can company, and I'm not a trash lover. But with appropriate technologies, you can convert one man's trash into another man's treasure. You can convert one man's trash into another man's beverage. So I came up with the idea of the Tetra bin when I was walking around Sydney Harbour. And while I was looking around the mundane daily infrastructures around me, you have park benches, trash cans, bus shelters. They haven't been changed in the past 30 years. They're still a piece of mundane metal. So I was, technology is the answer, but what was the question? So I asked myself, what if we can make the bins somehow interactive? What if we can make the bins deliver experiences and joyful, delightful moments back to the people around it? So that's why we built the Tetra bin. And nowadays, we have amazing technologies from mixed reality to IoT to artificial intelligence, and I think we have the opportunity to bring these technologies back to the physical space, back to the physical environments, to change the lives within the urban environments, and that's how millennials and Generation Z perceive this world. They grew up with playing around with the screens all the time, and they growing up with iPads. So from their perception of the world, this world should be interactive, should be responsive to them, So that's why we're creating, I think a lot of the companies in the world are creating futuristic worlds right now. But from my personal perspective, it's more important to care about humanity, to care about the educational side of it, and how we can encourage good behaviors. And so,
you mentioned it can also happen, in a park, at a bus stop.
Yeah.
It can be everywhere.
That's right. That's right.
Super cool. That's super cool. Thank you so much, Stephen.
Thank you.
Please be seated. So this is exactly what we are talking about for our second segment, the birth of innovative ideas. Gary, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Help me with it. So let me also put the question to you, Blake. How did you come up with the idea of starting a business focusing on marketing here in China? And did you ever think about starting a company before you come to China?
Well, to be honest, I hadn't considered starting a company before I came here. But I came over here to get my master's degree. I studied at Fudan Daxue in Shanghai. And then while I was there, one of the things that really struck me, and I felt like I hadn't understood living in the United States my entire life, is just how many brands there are and the rich history of innovation. And something that I really like about Chinese brands, especially these new Chinese brands, is they're taking a lot of older traditional ideas and they're communicating them in a new modern way for millennials and Gen Zers. So this really inspired me. And I felt very strongly that if this was something that could be communicated clearly outside of China. Because so many of these brands are local to specific towns, not even to an entire province, just to one town. And if I could take this, what was this local story in this town, the story of one entrepreneur who started a company and they use these traditional techniques and it's their something from their heart, it's a gift from them to the world or from their family to their community, and bring these stories to the United States or to Europe, I think that would really add a lot of value and bring people together. So this is why I started my company.
Have you seen really successful cases, of a particular Chinese brand, a local brand going overseas, going abroad, and do well in overseas market?
At the moment, actually, this is one of the biggest challenges facing Chinese companies.
Right,
is
right.
going abroad and
Yes.
not being seen as something more than just a made in China brand or just an Amazon store or something like this. And it's actually a complicated issue, but there are some successful cases, and these are kind of classic Greater China cases. I bring up Asus and Lenovo, two very large computer companies, and they have a very good localization overseas. And of course, here in China, they're also very popular brands. So yeah, one of the big things though is especially for B2C, for the small goods market, traditionally here in China, it's been mostly OEM. It's some sort of a factory which will have a contract to produce something from they'll license an IP rather than making their own. But recently, these factories have started to make their own IPs. And this is really a new phenomenon in China. So this is an exciting time to be in the market.
Exciting indeed. And Ali, your sensitive skin is actually the trigger, for you to consider natural ingredients instead of chemicals, right? I've got sensitive skin too, so I can feel you, girl. It has been bothering me for so long. I've been searching for natural products for so long. But talk to me about how did you decide to, commercialize this idea? What was that idea? Where did that come from?
Sure, absolutely. And love for you to try our product as well.
I'd love to.
So the idea really came, it really came about when I was living in New York. I was just really stressed and having skin issues. And I discovered this product. So it was a clay face mask, one of the top rated beauty products on Amazon, almost 40,000 4.5-star reviews. And it worked really great for my skin, for acne. The problem was that it was just so messy to use. You have to mix it yourself. It comes in this powder and it takes almost 20 minutes each time to use. So what I kind of did was I asked my parents, and they're both PhD chemists, to just ask, hey, can you guys, help me make this into a more effective, kind of more efficient format to use, like a cleansing bar format. And from there, I thought, this product, so many people love it, and the product form hasn't innovated or changed in over 16 years. So there must be other people that have this problem as well. So then once I got to Yale for business school for my MBA, there I got paired with a professor advisor. We did a lot of customer testing, so quantitative surveys, getting feedback on our product, the formulation, on the packaging, and then iterating off of that. And then right after that, I also got into the Sci Accelerator and Summer Fellowship at Yale's, founded by Joe Tsai from Alibaba, and that really drove our commercialization process, the mentorship that we received. So first, just getting featured in Vogue, and then getting onto Verishop and Fair Wholesale Marketplace. And also for next year, we'll be in about almost 10,000 subscription kits from Bespoke Post.
Wow, that is amazing. I'm definitely going to try your product. Can we buy it from China online? Is it accessible?
We will be
Not
working
for now.
on it.
Get it on the market in
right
China.
after the program.
Yeah, there's a huge demand here, girl. Get it over here. Jessie, now. Easy Transfer, right, as China's largest online financial service platform for, overseas students, for them to pay tuition, to pay rent. How did you come up with that idea? Does it have to do with your own experience?
Exactly. Actually, since we launched our first payment product in 2015, we've now grown to be the largest online payment platform for overseas students with their financial service. We're right now a Series D company, and everything back to 2015. At that year, I was just graduated from my high school in China, and I needed to pay tuition to Cornell University. That's my freshman year.
You went to Cornell.
Yeah, and then at that time, I remembered each family who needs to pay the tuition had to go to banks, and then their parents need to fill out very complicated forms, and then wait for like approximately 1 week until your college receive your tuition payment. And then the bank also charge you with a very expensive transaction fee. And actually, my mom was the first batch of seed users of Easy Transfer. Yeah, because I'm not the co-founders, I'm the partner. And then my mom was actually pretty impressed by the customer service they delivered. And she was very surprised how quick, cheap, and safe the service is. And then my mom told me, what's the most important thing is everything is in Chinese, and there is a staff who coached me with every step, with the whole process. And then my mom said, you have to meet the founding team. You have to know about the company. And afterward, I joined in as a partner. And then, I started my entrepreneurship career till now. Actually, moreover, most of the core members of Easy Transfer are former student organization leader for Chinese students back in America, in UK, or elsewhere. Overseas students have. So we clearly know what's the difficulties overseas students and their families have. So we later on expand our scope to housing rent payment, to health insurance payment, and also career coaching, studying coaching, like that. We also issued our credit cards, especially designed for Chinese overseas students, based on their consumption habits, with many mainstream Chinese banks such as Ping An Bank, Minsheng Bank, Guangda Bank. And then I believe many Gen Z founders have similar stories as me, because when Gen Z find problems, find marketing pain points in their daily life, they don't wait, they create, and they deliver solutions by themselves. And I think that's the lifestyle for Gen Z. Yeah.
They don't wait, they create. I love it. Zach, let me try this again. If you're with us on the phone, if you can hear me. Now, your book, Young China, tells stories about real and vivid young Chinese people. What inspired you to study young Chinese people from this perspective?
Hi, everyone, and thank you. We're so close and yet far away here, so I appreciate your patience. For Young China, it came from the idea and the recognition that here was this massively consequential generation, a generation who, without any shadow of a doubt, will be impacting the entire world. And that's a lot of what we're here to discuss today. With identity questions, who they are, what they stand for, what keeps them up at night, what they want for themselves, their family, their country. The answers to these identity questions would be having global impact. And yet, outside of China, it was a generation who was so sorely misunderstood. And so, bridging that understanding gap, trying to really understand this generation on the ground floor, particularly focusing on second and third tier cities, became an obsession of mine. And so after graduating from Columbia, I moved directly to China. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have a job. My only plan was to try to understand this generation from the ground up. I truly didn't think I would write a book. And it was only after recognizing that huge understanding deficit that the rest of the world has with China, that I was motivated to try to do something on that scale. I'm actually proud to say it just came out in China these last few weeks. So, bridging, I know so many participants here today are committing a lot of their lives to building that bridge, whether it be a financial bridge for paying tuition, cosmetics or understanding. And just like them, I was trying to bridge East and West, China and the world.
And Zach, because people say that Gen Zers are born to a prosperous China, they display this very different consuming habits. They don't like to save money. They're not thrift at all. Is that also your observation?
Well, yes and no. I think when we talk about Gen Z as a consumer population, it's really sexy to talk about how they don't save, they love to spend. They're all right? They all whatever they earn, they spend, and that's definitely true of a portion of the population. And so I think when we talk about this generation as a consumer, we all get really excited about what is ultimately probably around 30% of the population, and so that is true. And that 30% of the Gen Z population in China is absolutely enough to drive and power the consumer engine of the entire country. And so when you're talking about that, think of as the consumer class in China, they absolutely do spend more. They absolutely are intuitive. The older generation in China had to learn how to be consumers as they were moving from really a subsistence economy to an existence economy. This young generation has not had to learn how to be consumers. It's been intuitive since birth. On top of that, they're also the most marketed to generation in the world. I think we sort of forget that. Over the last 15 years, as global brands, as Chinese brands have gotten better, they've all been hungry for the largest growth market in the world. And so you have this young generation who spends more time on their phones than any other Gen Z generation in the world, who has every single brand globally sort of frothing at the mouth to get them to spend a part of their wallet share on whatever their item is. And so they've been sort of hyper marketed to and hyper exposed to the world of consumption in a way that no other generation in China had been prior. Some are responding by spending. Others are making other lifestyle decisions, and we can jump into that as well.
Fascinating, Zach. Now, Jianqing, let me turn to you for a second. Worldwide sustainable fashion picked up speed around 2010s, but that idea was accepted by China much, much later. What inspired you to start making that first sustainable T-shirt back in 2010? Was it in 2010?
Yeah, we actually started in 2008, and we were able to have the first T-shirt made with green cotton in 2010. And actually, because we belong to a parent company called Zugzag, and because the company has been running for 8 years, so we have realized how much pollution that fashion industry is bringing to the world, and that was the internal drive for us to try to make a line that is more sustainable.
Wow. And Mr. Yu, you left top companies, right? Youku, Tudou, top players in the industry, top content creators, content streamers back in 2014, and you started your own company focusing on animated movie industry. Was it a difficult decision for you back then, leaving all the glories behind, or not so much?
Not really. Actually, we left one company, but not left tech. Because animation, CG animation, you need two major successful factors, art and technology. They like two legs, otherwise you cannot walk. So if you look at our team, also composed of artists and engineers, people write codings. So that's very key. And also, if you look at our story, we're quite different from the traditional animation studios because we have a deep understanding of technology because that's the key driver of the new art form, and it will enable a great storytelling. So that's the key of making great stories.
Wow, I love the trend here. These young entrepreneurs, they are unconventional these times. They are both craftsmen. They are both daydream believers from Steve Jobs to Elon Musk. Professor Lindenbauer, let me bring you into this. These thinkers today, they're so thinking out of the box, but how can young people foster their minds to adapt to new technologies? How can they be a thinker out of the box?
That's a great question. I think we have seen a couple of fantastic examples today already. I personally prefer a process where we try to identify a problem that we might ourselves have or that we see in other people. And so really try to build an understanding of what they go through. And then we design and iterate through the process, involving users in the process of developing a product, developing a service, and then using those insights to create something that hasn't been present before. So I think this is a process that we have seen even before Gen Z, but it's even more now, in particular with, for example, the students I work with. On the other hand, so we have this process, another very popular part that hasn't been as emphasized before in previous generation, I think, is societal impact. A lot of people want to create a better world in terms of sustainability, in terms of education, in terms of how we consume really. So I've recently seen this fantastic talk by Dr. Melody Ivory, who built a company at the intersection of lifestyle and being beneficial for marginalized groups. And in the process, really create something that is really elevating really consumption, that is beneficial in terms of business, but also beneficial really for humanity. So it's understanding humans, understanding people, iterating over product, but then having kind of also societal impact in the mind.
And Monica, what do you think about it? Is that also the feeling shared by you? I mean, how can entrepreneurs adapt to new tech better?
Yeah, exactly. +1 to everything that Professor Bao has mentioned. I think adapting to new technologies is going to be a given already. I think more importantly is falling in love with the problem and not exactly the solution or like the technology to solve that problem, because there are going to be new technologies up and coming that can still solve a given problem, and it's all about the perspective that you take on it. So yeah.
Founding a company, it can be difficult. It's not an easy task. While we celebrate your success and your great projects, I also want to take some time to dive into the difficulties that you guys have encountered along the way. And our team has collected stories from you guys and asked for your difficult times. And we have 8 icons prepared here. Can we have them? There you have it, each representing a different story. I'm going to pick 2 to 3 of them, and let's hear the story, and I want to hear your thoughts about it, right? So let's see, what do we have here? First of all, I want to pick camera, right? Camera is my work buddy. Camera it is. So what's the keyword for camera? Family crisis. Okay. Family crisis, it can be a tough issue, especially when you are starting or operating your own business. It's extremely difficult to strike a good work-life balance, right? So whose story is this? Family crisis. Zach, is this your story? Tell us about it. What happened?
That is my story. And so, it's a public forum here, so I will try not to share too many gruesome details. But basically, what started as a wonderful story in a time of pandemic, it began, I guess, almost 2 years ago now. And I left Beijing in January of 2020 for a 2-week business trip that has since turned into nearly 2 years. And while I was marooned in the United States, I actually met a person who has is now the love of my life, and so I'm very fortunate in that respect. But as we've been sort of trying to get back to China, unable even to get back to the United States, we're in Mexico now. She's a Chinese national, I'm an American national, so we're sort of caught between a global pandemic, global politics, and trying to make everything work. Amidst all of that, my fiance got a really deadly and rare infection that for the last 6 weeks she's been fighting. And fortunately, she's going to be okay. But it wasn't always clear that was going to be the case. So, I mean, what does this have to do with entrepreneurship? I always joked that years ago, if there is going to be a slogan for China over the last 30 years, if they're going to make a sort of a sitcom, and then the main character kind of said something at the end of the episode, it would be 计划赶不上变化, right? The plans can't the changes. And the product of that is a generation who has to be extraordinarily adaptable to circumstances. because of the pace of change in China, so much of what defines this young generation is that adaptability. And so for the last 2 years, as I've been on my entrepreneurial journey, I have done my best young Chinese person impression and tried to adapt to the vast and at certain points really terrifying changes of the last 2 years while trying to keep a company up and running and these ideas flowing from east to west. So Family Crisis has been, fortunately, crisis averted, but it was truly the worst period of my life. You know, when a loved one is in danger like that. And so that happens to entrepreneurs just like it happens to average people too, and we have to keep the ship sailing.
Oh, absolutely. It must have been a very difficult time for you. I hope your fiance is okay. We wish her a speedy recovery, Zach. So let's see, what do we have next? Let's see the icons again. Can we have them? Can we have them up? I want to pick a second one. Okay, what do we have here? How about the E icon over there? Let's see, what's the keyword for the E icon? Cyber attack. You know, we live in a cyber world now. Everything is connected, and information security matters to everything, right? And sometimes I feel very vulnerable because, you know, our data got collected every time I log into something, our facial data, our phone number, our address, and there's really nothing much we could do other than hoping the company can do good with our data. Whose story is that cyber attacks?
That should be me, my story.
So what happened? Tell us all about it.
It's a very captivating story. When you create products and services with technology and the internet, you know, you hear stories about things get hacked, but I just wouldn't have thought that would, you know, that it could actually happen to me. So that was back in the year of 2019, and we were working with one of the most famous theme parks on the planet Earth, and we were sort of managing and deploying different experiences onto their interactive interfaces, you know, from media architecture, building facades, to gigantic LED screens and interactive kiosks on the street. And that's when we were just about to make some impact, you know, as a small, fledgling entrepreneurial company. And I believe it was someone trying to, you know, someone was toying with our technology, and, you know, basically all of our devices went offline, and, you know, you have 10,000 visitors daily entering that theme park. So it could bring the end of company event to us.
Wow.
And I was calling up my mentors, I was calling up my advisors, I was trying to, you know, ask for help. I was calling the police as well. You know, I went through a lot of nightmares, and essentially, you know, it got all fixed up, you know, after a few all-nighters. So that's a lesson I've learned, that, you know, the security, internet security is not something that, you know, we hear from Hollywood movies or, you know, TV episodes. It's actually real. And we spend a lot of time rewrapping the technology that help us to fix the problem, and we patented that technology. So now it's part of our core products within our ecosystem. And we're utilizing that products to serve a lot of customers that have big LED screens, media architecture, building facades in China, in New York City, in different countries. So it's a happy ending story, but you know, it's a pretty hectic.
Yeah, it can happen to anyone, right?
That's
That's
right.
incredible. And in a difficult time like this, the support from your team member, I suppose, is indispensable. And you've got your team member here.
Yeah.
Who's from Steven's company? Oh, there you have it. Can we have a mic for him? I want to hear your story. Like, how did you guys weather through the storms together as a team?
Yeah, thanks. So, you know, just being in, like, the nature of a startup, right? We're constantly bombarded with issues and problems daily. And I would say we have a lot of dark moments. But, you know, that's what it takes, you know, when you want to build something from scratch. And nobody's going to come and tell you what to do or where to go or even hold your hands. And in the end, it's up to us as a team to do it together. So I'd say when we have these issues, we come together as a team, we support each other, we motivate each other, and what's important is we learn from our mistakes, so then we don't repeat them.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Do we have time for a third one? Let's see. Let's have the icons all over again. I want to pick a third one. Let's have the, okay. How about the t-shirt one? Let's pick the t-shirt one. What's associated with t-shirts? Sales hits. Whose story is this? Sales hits. Tell us all about it.
That's actually a pandemic story. When COVID-19 hit, it was just before Chinese New Year, and that was actually an important sales season for us. And then everyone stopped going to the stores, and we immediately had this sales hit. And also mainly because we were still relying heavily on offline stores. We're still in the mid of transformation from offline to online. So everyone was kind of like, we don't know what to do, and all our sales team don't have work to go to, literally. So we were trying all the different ways to save the business. We were starting to do live streams, and we were trying to, actually, one of our colleagues actually hacked into the mall to get the iPad with all the client information on. So luckily, the pandemic got under control in China very quickly, and in March, as we scheduled, we had our exhibitions and pop-ups, and our customers started coming back, and eventually the consumers gained confidence, and they came back to the streets, and we were saved from the sales hit.
Yeah, sales hit. It can be tough, right? Because for a company to survive, you have to stay afloat. And it's a pandemic problem that might be shared with a lot of companies. Mr. Yu, you're from the movie industry. The movie industry has been hit especially hard, right, during the pandemic time.
Yeah.
How has it affected your company?
Yeah, I think quite a lot of sad story, particularly for the live action films. Animation team, we are slightly better because we don't need to get together big crowd of people, hundreds of people.
Oh, right.
But still, we face a very big challenge because the film we were working on is Nausea Reborn. It was supposed to be released the summer of August of 2020. So think about the time, March of 2020 is the peak time of our production.
It was the worst.
But still, that's the time, right, of the peak of the
Pandemic,
COVID-19,
yes.
the pandemic. Nobody knows what to do. So of two-thirds of our team, they are back in their hometown after the Chinese New Year. So we did have quite a lot of challenge because think about people can work from home, but the computer cannot meet the requirement. So what we did is we send all the big heavy computer to their hometown, and we have 3 colleagues in Hubei province. Even the courier cannot be not available, so they were asked to local purchase by the machine. Although they are important to share the workload, but more important, we want them to back to the team, because otherwise they'll be isolated. They'll have a lot of frustration, a lot of pressure. So long story short, in the end, we managed to keep up the original production plan. There's no single day delay. So our film was ready by July.
It didn't get postponed.
It
Oh,
did,
that's
but probably the theater was closed.
Right,
That's
yes.
overall. So that's the reason this film was postponed the Chinese New Year. So we're lucky under such a difficult time.
Wow, fascinating. And Jesse, I heard an interesting story from you. It's not so much of a dark moment, I guess. It's an interesting anecdote to me. It's a story about Shake Shack Burgers came into rescue when you were declined meetings from your potential partners.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
The beginning is very dark. Because I think my darkest moment is probably last summer, April, autumn. And then the bad news is we heard about Alipay a financial service giant entered our market. They're starting to do cross-border tuition payment business.
Whoa, that's
became
a big
our
competitor.
direct competitor. And then, there's a very famous saying from those investors. They will ask the founders, what if Alibaba do the same thing as you do? And it's a dilemma for all of the entrepreneurs, same as us. What we do next is, me and my partner, we flew to Hangzhou to Ant Finance headquarters. We approached them, try to persuade them about the opportunity for collaboration together. But we were rejected after a very short conversation in Hangzhou Starbucks. They even didn't invite us into their office. So we had to go back to Beijing and started to strengthen our student networks with the global colleges and improved our customer service, because the only advantage we have is we're closer with the student, and we're there to pay more attention on the details of this very niche market. And what we do next is we try to approach Tencent, the direct competitor of Alibaba, because we think they might be interested in build up a new platform with us together to challenge Alipay. At the beginning, we just add each other's WeChat, we talk about our ideas, but we didn't meet in person. I can clearly remember it was the first day Shake Shacks opened its first shop in China and Beijing. That's where the Shake Shack came in. And then I posted a photo of the Shake Shack delivery I got in my WeChat moments. And then surprisingly, the product manager of Tencent Financial Technology commented. He said, I miss the burger so much, but there's no Shake Shacks in Shenzhen. In the early next morning, my partner and I, we flew to Shenzhen carrying a huge box of Shake Shack's burgers. And we directly went to the Tencent headquarters. I texted him, and he's so surprised. And we shared the burgers with everyone in their team and started to articulate our ideas about building a new platform, challenging Alipay together. And thanks to Shake Shack Burgers, if you now search Wei Hui Kuan in WeChat, you can see a new platform presented by Tencent Financial Technology and Easy Transfer together. So you can right now easily pay your tuition with whatever volume you have in Easy Transfer within probably like about 3 minutes. Yeah, thanks to Shake Shack.
This is how the burgers came into rescue. I mean, talking about seize the opportunity, right? You guys are really thinking out of the box. I love it. Quite a story. Now, as Victor Hugo said, every dark night will end and the sun will rise. So after we conquer the darkness, right, there's also a silver lining. There's always a silver lining. Let's also talk about what strategies will be the most effective for our market now dominated by young consumers, because every company wants to take up more market share. Let's move on to our third segment today, innovation and market. And first of all, allow me to introduce the film Ready Player One, and we've got some graphics animation into it. Let's have it on. Set in 2045, much of humanity uses the Oasis. This is a virtual reality simulation to escape the real world. It echoes the buzzword metaverse, featuring a new scenario of reality, immersive, everywhere, anywhere. This is the power of VR. Young people are crazy about it. Mr. Yu, how has VR impacted your industry or your company? Have you been thinking applying VR to your movies?
Yeah, if you were aware of actually the first VR films, which was made by us by 2015, we were in the tech arena, so we were quite alert to the new technology. So in the Oculus and the Magic Leap, they came up. And so also when we do animation, we're thinking probably we can do a different format of VR story. So back in 2015, we formed a team about 12 people. We made a 5 minutes VR story. It was called the name called Scent. And we were invited to SIGGRAPH that year, the next summer, and you can still check you can find it. It's a quite nice movie. Back to your question, any challenge or opportunity? I think I would say it's a more opportunity because everybody as a creator will look at the share of the Gen Zs of their time, their attention. And film and VR still not competitive, but we are meeting with VR hardware, also platform players. There's a lot of collaboration because we are content creator. Really, we can provide high quality. Actually, today I got a call, ask me, can we make a VR version of Grey Snake?
Oh,
how much workload? How would you? I said, I cannot give you a number right away, but there's something doable. So down the road, you can see.
The budget comes in first.
Yeah,
That's
it's
the first
a big
concern.
number, but it's something really very fresh and will be very, very attractive.
It might happen.
It will happen.
It will happen. That's good news for the viewers, I guess. Now, Zach, let me bring you in. You write this article, China's New Innovation Advantage, on Harvard Business Review, right? You pointed out a very unique innovation ecosystem in China. You said hundreds of millions of hyper-adoptive and hyper-adaptive Chinese consumers that makes China so globally competitive today. How did you reach that conclusion?
So when we talk about innovation, particularly globally, we typically focus on what's made. But as every entrepreneur on stage and joining us digitally today and watching from home knows, that you could have the best idea in the world, but it doesn't really matter unless someone's willing to use it. And so having great ideas is important, but what makes China's innovation ecosystem so unique is not necessarily its innovative class, which of course is becoming stronger and increasingly on par with its global competitors, but rather its hyper-adaptive and hyper-adoptive population. And so part of the way that I came to this conclusion was of course, doing research for this article for our business review. We focused a lot on payment, on digital payment. Because digital payment and mobile payment in particular, is a technology that came out at the exact same time in the United States and China. And if you fast forward from 2014, 2015 to today, what you see is Apple recently celebrated that around 27% of their US iPhone users are using Apple Pay versus 90% of the average Tencent user is using WeChat Pay. And that disparity in usage doesn't have to do with technology and the quality of the innovation. It has to do with people's willingness to adapt to new technologies and new circumstances. There's some numbers that came out recently around e-commerce globally. You can see that China makes up around 52% of global e-commerce total. And that's after the pandemic. That's after more and more Americans have gotten online. And so when you're thinking about sort of technologies that are coming out of China, I think there's sort of two tiers. And I believe River Insights is actually working on this specifically on the panel today. So on one tier, you have what's being created for China. And the thesis of that HBR article suggests that because of this hyper-adaptive and hyper-adoptive population, the innovations that are being created in China and rolled out in China are greenhouse for the rest of the world, being incubated and for potential rollout globally. So for all of these great entrepreneurs in China, absolutely think what works in China. I know that you're now a step back of the rest of the world and thinking about how to integrate some of those new technologies and new innovations into a global ecosystem could potentially be a wonderful runway for what could otherwise be a relatively isolated innovation community.
Hyper-adoptive and hyper-adaptive in the meantime. That's quite refreshing. Blake, talk to us about marketing strategies, because we've noticed a lot of American brands, when they come to China, they adapt really well. The translation of their English name is really well, like Coca-Cola and Coca-Cola. I think that's a wonderful translation. And a lot of brands like McDonald's, Kentucky Chicken, when they come into China, they develop this special menu for Chinese consumers. But that's not always the case. The other way around, right? For Chinese brands to go overseas, isn't it?
Very difficult. I have to say, I think whoever does the marketing at KFC, those guys are brilliant. They're some of the best localization that I've seen in the world. But specifically for, like you said, for Chinese brands going abroad, it's very difficult because something that a lot of people know is the difficulties for foreign brands coming into China and how unique the Chinese market is. But what a lot of Chinese don't understand is that the outside world is equally different. So if you approach the American or the overseas markets in general with the same kind of strategies that you approach the Chinese market with, it's not going to work for you. And unfortunately, a lot of companies are motivated by Q1, Q2 profits. They're trying to see when I move into a new market, how quickly can I get a profit? Because for a lot of, especially for a lot of SMEs, going overseas is a really big risk. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to, because of course it's a large investment, they're trying to see ROI as fast as possible. And this, while in certain cases it can work, the majority of the time, going overseas and the localization is a long-term process that you really need to invest a lot of time and energy into doing.
What are some of the examples of really, really funny translation of Chinese brand when they try to go overseas?
Oh, I mean, there's so many. I was working with somebody, a client that I had, and we were speaking about names for naming. I can't tell you what the name ended up being, but their first draft, they said they wanted their product to be called Purple 7-Up, and I said, "But are you guys doing food and beverage?" And they said, "No, absolutely not."
It's not
food and beverage. And I said, "Okay, let's go back to the drawing board." But
isn't it another version of 7-Up?
Yeah, it wasn't. But this is the kind of thing that happens fairly frequently, just in the same way that you have a lot of foreign companies that will come here and actually choosing names like Coca-Cola and everything. That's an industry in and of itself here in China.
Yeah.
There's an entire class of Chinese consultants that will specifically help you choose a name. And unfortunately, for Chinese companies going abroad, there's no such support. It's very little. It's actually a very new market. So yeah, I think there's a lot.
You guys are there. I mean, filling the blank of the market. That's a brilliant idea. And Jesse, I understand other than Easy Transfer, you also invest in a lot of other projects, including cat food, right?
Exactly.
Talk to us more about it. How did that happen?
Yeah, it's actually, I'm actually a newbie investor, invested in some interesting lifestyle products that Gen Z have. For example, I'm very interested in the new lifestyle of how Gen Z partying. So I read a lot about how Gen Z is now, they don't like karaoke anymore. They like escape room or 剧本杀. I have no idea what 剧本杀 is in English, probably live action role play or something.
Something like that, yes.
Another trend is the single economy in China, which we also call 单身文化 or 丧文化 in China, 丧 culture. It's actually, there are a quite large number of people, Gen Z people in China, they are single and they are antisocial, but they are willing to spend more money on pets than themselves. They would like to feed the pet with the best fresh food. The healthiest food they have. So I found a very interesting fresh cat food company. And then it turns out the founder is my Cornell alum. So I trust him a lot. I invested. Actually, I don't know a lot about cat food because I have allergy on cat hair. But actually, he's on site today. Probably he can talk about the product.
So who's working with Jesse?
Roger.
You are the founder of the cat food brand. Talk to us more about it. How did you guys meet? Did you reach out to him first of all?
Yeah, because I was in dire need of fresh capital in order to rebrand the current brand. So I heard that he was into the investment world. We turned out to be close friends when we were at Cornell. So I just went ahead and reached out to him. And it was great. I mean, let me talk to you about more of the reasons that we do the things that we're doing right now. The first is, I feel like there are two reasons that we're doing it right now. First, I feel like the cat nowadays deserves better food. I mean, like what Jesse just said, we're evolving into a new consumer trend where pets becoming an integral part of our lives for young generations or even for the older generations. We're seeing a huge demographic change in terms of the 2-child policy, the 3-child policies, and then also the aging issues that we're having in human geography, right? All of which calls into the command of having companionships that beyond human beings, aka pets. And I personally, being a pet owner and also having my co-founder being a pet owner, after a series of market research, we're having difficulties finding quality cat food, meaning locally sourced, locally packaged, locally delivered, a good cat food. Those that could actually be consumed by human, but with less flavor, obviously. And at the same time, I was wondering, because I always wanted to do this, and we had the supply chain, we had the marketing capabilities of letting more and more people be aware of the health of our pets, and also having the supply chain advantages in China to locally source and locally produce at a very reasonable price. So I in both ways, for my enthusiast, being a pet owner myself, and also having a market at the process where this product is ready for mass production, I just found it to be the perfect time doing this. And I'm more than grateful for Jesse putting money in me. I'll try my best not to lose it. I'm proud of you.
Wishing you guys all the best on your venture here.
I appreciate it.
Cats do deserve good food. They do. Stephen, you have landed your project in a lot of big metropolises, Sydney, New York, and countries like Singapore, China. But what was the strategy behind it? How did you choose certain products to land in certain cities? How does it work?
Right. From a design-savvy perspective, each city has its different personality. Each city is catered for a very special set of different urban experiences. For example, when I was living in New York City, it's a city full of flashing lights, but the underlying crafts and infrastructures are very outdated. So Tetra Bean was one of the good examples that we can bring some urban delight into the existing flashing lights. So it's able to foster these immersive experiences of how when people walk around the city, they have different delightful experiences. But in China and Shanghai, for example, in Shanghai, if we pick Shanghai as an example, it's more important to be cultural appropriate. I didn't mean it in a small way. I mean it in a big way. We're gonna appreciate, for example, how can we bring the elements of Chinese opera into everyday urban infrastructural services. So we build these park benches that when you sit down, it's going to play some music, some music from the traditional opera that's going to warm up the entire plaza. And we convert that into a digital interactive plaza. And it became duplicatable, so we can, copy and paste this plaza to a lot of different places where we need digital experiences and interactive experiences in urban areas. But from another perspective, China has becoming a great testing bed, and I think it's the most appropriate and the most appropriate incubation lab for innovative urban technologies, because the urbanization problem, the way they tackle the problem here is not that it's not from academic or some other ways. We tackle the problem from we open up the city, we convert the city into an immersive experiences, into a nightlife delightment. We convert the plaza into a theme park. That's how they're doing it here. So this testing bed, this great testing bed, it requires more urban innovations to be on the platform. So that's why I came back to China. I think this is one of the best time to actually foster more interesting yet meaningful urban delights.
A testing bed. But what have been the reactions to your products? Have you guys been collecting feedbacks? Were you able to make improvements based on the feedbacks?
Definitely. So, for example, when we were deploying the Tetra Bean in Sydney, New York, Los Angeles, Copenhagen and Tokyo, we were seeing the kids queuing up on the street to
Really?
put trash into it. And some of the kids were putting their parents' key rings and mobile phones into it just to be able to see the reaction from the trash can. So we were actually inspired by the amount of joy we were able to bring to people. And that was the initial spark that came to us. And we wanted to bring that type of joy to more places, to everywhere. So now, we don't just have the interactive trash bins, we have interactive, different set of, urban innovations. And especially in China, it's when we talk about smart city, often we approach from a very technological perspective. We optimize the traffic control, we optimize, this or that. So from our perspective, especially for young people, especially for the younger generation, from millennials to Generation Z, it's important to foster new experiences. It's not about the technology, but it's actually about experiences. So what if we can, convert the city to become an everyday Nintendo, an everyday Disney? So you've seen Disney, the Disney quality of experiences everywhere across the entire city. So that's actually how I envision the future of urban lives.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And Jiangxing, I understand you've brought some products from your companies. Can you show us what it is? Let's have a look at it. Let's have a look. What do we have here?
So I've brought two pieces from a project that we are collaborating with a minority group in Yunnan. They're called Dulongzu, and they still have a weaving tradition. Wow. So we've worked with them to produce these nice fabrics.
Are these handmade?
Yes, these are hand waves.
Wow.
Waved. Yeah. And we, this is a cape, for example.
Oh, so you wear it like this.
Yes.
It's pretty.
So we make the designs and we make them into products and sell them at our shops in Shanghai and Beijing.
And you also started this training program for the girls, right, from these Dulong ethnic minority groups.
Yes.
How have you helped them?
So basically, we provide the opportunity for them to come to Shanghai to study the weaving techniques together. It's not that we are training them only. We are also learning from them how they weave textiles and what is their aesthetics. And because they are really living in a very remote area, when you fly, we usually fly to Kunming, and then it takes us 2 days of drive to go from Kunming to where they live, the village where they live. So many of them actually never really visited big cities like Shanghai. So we provide them with this opportunity, and we provide them with stable jobs for 3 months every year when they're not very busy with their farming. And so they can just stay at home, stay with their family and their kids while they can be taking care of their land, and they can weave and and bring these beautiful products to people who live in the cities.
That's lovely. That's lovely.
We actually have these products exhibited at Venice Biennale and a number of cultural events internationally, and they're loved by people all around the world. And we tell them the news, and they take a real sense of pride in it.
Wow, I love the story behind it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing the story with us and your product with us. Thank you very much. And now another marketing strategies is now gaining popularity here. It's social memes, right? Blake, let me put this to you, since you're the expert of marketing strategies. We've seen social memes like 秋天的第一杯奶茶, the first cup of bubble tea in fall. We've got that here, right here. So it's connected with friendship, with love, with getting a greeting with each other whether it's getting cold, and young people are crazy about these buying ideas. Why do you think that's happening? What's behind this trend?
So I think memes, and in a larger part, this has to do a lot with social media and how social media impacts our world now. Because right now it's on your phone. I think most people, the first thing they do when they wake up is they look at their phone, they check out their WeChat moments, they look at what's going on Xiaohongshu, or
Xiaohongshu, the red.
Yeah, right. Or things like this. Or if you're overseas, then it's Facebook, it's Instagram. And so one of the most important things that memes do, of course, bring joy to people, but it's a cultural reference that everybody understands. And so for something like this, in terms of making this a part of your marketing strategy, the name of the game is authenticity, because nothing turns consumers off faster than an inauthentic meme or a bad use of a popular meme. You look at some things that have had great success and become memes in and of themselves. Bubble tea is one. Overseas in the US, pumpkin spice lattes are another thing, right? Pumpkin spice lattes and Ugg boots. It paints a picture of a person, and it gives a particular kind of feeling. But there's, I mean, countless examples of companies that are lambasted for using memes badly or using memes in a way that's obviously for marketing purposes. So I would advise a little bit of caution for if a company is saying, oh, we want to use memes as part of our branding strategy. I would say, not bad, but you really need to have your finger on the pulse, and have to know exactly what this meme is and how it's going to relate to your brand. If you use it recklessly, consumers, especially millennials and Gen Z who understand these memes, who grew up with them, who make them, will turn on you in a heartbeat.
It can be tricky.
Yes.
It can be extremely tricky. Now, before we move on to our last segment today, let's play a little game, a quiz round, okay? So for our guests here joining us in Beijing, you've got a whiteboard and a marker near your couch. I would like you to pick them up. For the guests joining us online, our team has asked you to prepare a piece of paper and a marker or a pen. I'd like to ask you to have those ready. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then I would like you to write down your answers. Here's my question. So when hiring an employee, what are the qualities and traits you see as the most important in them? Write down 3 top qualities, 3 words. Have a good think of it, write them down. And while you're writing, let me put a question also to our audience. Here's the question. What kind of quality do you see as the most important in your boss? Raise your hand if you have something to share. Can we have a mic for him? Sure.
Well, this is a tricky question. So
your boss is here? Your boss is here.
He is here, matter of fact. Okay. Well, to Generation Z like us, I feel like there's 2 key words. The first one is going to be sharpness.
Sharpness.
Well, for students like me, about to get out of college, maybe take an internship, or about to actually walk in the office, I will feel more gladly to walk in the office knowing that my boss can allocate the work or carry me through and make us a sharp team out there. You know, we're slotting dragons together, and that's like a sense of achievement for me. And the second one will be matching, which is the foundation for the first word. Even like to me, the most renowned world leaders, if they don't match their employees, they're just icons, float out there in the air. So if I can find my boss to be matching my lifestyle, my characters, and my living like social vibes. I know it sounds crazy, right? An employee talking about like having a boss matching my own style, but this is our generation. You know, you go out there and find your boss. So like, please pardon my silly analogy. It's almost like walking in a relationship, right? Like having the style that you feel comfortable with your boss, I believe will optimize my performance. So those are the 2 words, and luckily I found my boss who's a perfect demonstration of 2 keywords. So.
You find the company culture that matches with your lifestyles?
It definitely did.
Thank you very much. I guess, has everybody finished? All right, let's have a show of the answers. Let's see. Oh, Mr. Yu is still writing. Let's have them. Okay, let's have a look at the answers from the guests here in Beijing. Hold it for our camera so our camera can get really good at it. So Blake said creative, focused, passionate. And Jesse said professional. What's the second one?
Kinetic.
Kinetic.
Yeah.
What's the last one?
Altruistic.
Altruistic. Woo. Okay, that's a lot to ask. Okay, and Ms. Johnsing said curious, motivated, good commitment. Is that good communication or good commitment?
Commitment.
Commitment. Yes. Okay. And this is from Stephen. Honesty, passion, inclusiveness. And Mr. Yu, right? Devotion, self-drive, teamwork. Wow. Did we see any overlapping words?
I think not too many.
Passionate?
Passionate.
Yeah.
Passionate. Yeah, passion. And also devotion, right? Profession, devotion.
Commitment.
Focus. Those are recurring themes. Let's have a look at what our online guests has written. Can we have them? Can we have the pictures of them? Do we have them? No? Do we have them? I'm just going to ask. Okay. There you have it. Okay, this is from Ali. Ali said, willingness to learn, ownership. Oh, I can't see it. Can we have the close-up shot again? This is from Monica. Monica, hold it up for me. Hold it up for me, please. So, okay. I can't read it if you don't have the close-up shot for me. I'm going to ask my control room director, show me the close-up shot. Yeah, there we have it. Kind. What's the second word? Motivated. Interdisciplinary. Okay, thank you. That's from Professor Lindenbauer. And can we have Ali's answer again? I just looked at the first one and the second one. This is from Monica. Okay, adaptability and communication. Proactivity. Okay. Let's have a look at Ali's answer again. Can we have it? Ali, what was your third answer? Okay. Oh, there we have it. Dives deep. Dives deep. Willingness to learn, ownership, dives deep. Got it. And Zach, you're joining us on the phone. So what are the 3 top qualities that you would seek in a young candidate?
Dependable, capable, and a cultural fit.
Ooh, okay. So we've had some overlapping themes, and we've got some unique answers. Jesse, your answer is pretty unique. Talk to us more about it. Why these 3 qualities? I mean, kinetic. Talk to us about it.
First of all, professional is very easy to understand.
Yeah.
Including professional in his skills, knowledge, and also, most importantly, his attitude. Because when we are speaking about Gen Z employees, sometimes it will connect with unprofessional because they're probably sometimes not on time or easy to quit a job. But I believe there's still many professional young talents from our generation who can create more. And then the second one is kinetic, because I read the word kinetic, or we can see being adaptive to the changing trends or changing technologies. Because, the world is changing so fast. We can see advancing technologies year by year. We can see the pandemic brings so big changes. We can see we have metaverse, we have blockchain, we have NFT, we have those new notions. I believe someone needs to be kinetic, to be adaptive to the new world. And then the third one is altruistic, because most of us here are entrepreneurs. We call us entrepreneurs, but not businessmen, because many people can do business, can earn money. But I believe one entrepreneur should think about create more social value, more than making money. And I believe all of my employees should be qualified as my potential partner in the future. So I'll consider altruistic as a basic foundation or requirement for all of my employees, of my family members, yes.
And a lot of you also picked motivated, self-driven, right? Let's see Ali's answer. Talk to us, Ali, about your choices. Why were those the 3 qualities that you seek in a young candidate the most important?
Sure. So I think my top quality was this to learn. And this is basically, so for early stage employees, I'm really looking for people based on their ability to learn, and not necessarily based on what they already know so far, since they're so early in the workforce. So for example, recently I had an intern from Borden, and she's amazingly creative, she's an artist. Skills like that you can't really learn overnight. But with her, there was also a lot of kind of the technical aspects, like running Facebook and digital marketing campaigns, optimizing those for low-cost conversions that she picked up really quickly. I think some other qualities, so ownership. So will they do a good job if you get a project? Can they handle it? We check in with questions, be able to deliver, and then also get more responsibility afterwards. And then also lastly, dive deep. So this is it's actually an Amazon leadership principle. I mean, generally problems are multi-level, and there's so many different ways that go to just trying to find the solution. So how many ways did you approach the problem, or how many people did you talk to try to solve this, and what is your process for problem solving?
And Blake, creative, passionate. What was the second one? Focused.
So for me, one of the interview questions that I always ask is just to have somebody tell me something that they're passionate about, just something that they enjoy. Because I think for me, of course, not everybody's going to love their job, but my job, I believe, as the manager, as the boss, is to try to get people engaged as they can be. I think there was a gentleman speaking before that an employee now, especially with Gen Z employees, they want to feel that they're valued by their work. And they want to feel like not only are they doing something that's making them money, but something that they can be proud to tell their friends and their family that they do. And so I think that in order to elicit that, you have to find somebody who's passionate about what they do. Right. And part of my job is to help people to be passionate about what they do. So this and being creative. I think being creative is not only about, well, can you make something in Canva? Can you make a graphic design? I think it's also about how can you take what you know and relate it to what you don't know. How can you create new solutions based on what you already have in your mind? And I think there's some people that will say, well, you need to have a lot of technical skills, but I think most of those can actually be learned on the job. But if you're able to make creative and innovative solutions, then that's something that can't be taught. So that's something that I really look for. And of course, being creative and passionate, you need to be focused. We need to have clear goals, clear outcomes. So when I ask a potential employee, why would you like to work for me, or what would you like out of this job? That's not a trick question. I'm not asking to think, okay, well, you need to say that you're going to be loyal to me or something. No, not at all. When I ask that question, what I mean is, how will this job help you? What are the kind of goals that you have? What is your sort of professional growth? What focus do you have? What kind of a person would you like to be? And how can working for my company help you to get there? Because I think this is what makes employees really motivated.
I think a lot of people here do agree with you. And Mr. Yu, you manage a massive team, a team of 200, and a lot of them are Gen Zers, as you mentioned earlier. What will make the cut for you? What does it take to work for you?
Yeah, it's easy and not easy, and actually not only 200 people. For one animation film, it takes about 500 people 3 years to finish.
Wow. Okay.
And so I put devotion at first because loving animation and loving making animation is two different things. Because making animation is really very it's interesting but very challenging. Sometimes it's painstaking, and I'll just give you one example. I'll ask one question. People, you can guess what the question is. Can you guess? If an animator spent a whole day, probably 8 or 10 hours, you guess what's output put in seconds?
How many seconds?
Yeah,
I was thinking how many minutes?
Yeah.
How many seconds?
10 hours.
Take a guess.
As input, output. You can give a number in your mind. I have the answer is
oh my God! So it's under 6. 1
answer
second?
Is 1 second. So that's one example of how difficult, how
that's mind-blowing.
If you don't really have the true love of animation, you'll lose your patience.
Yeah,
courage.
for sure.
So you really have the devotion, not only passion. I didn't put passion because passion cannot last. You really have devotion for.
Right.
Second, I put self-drive because in our studio, we share the goal, the production plan. Everybody knows where we are heading to, and you need to have the motivation and the initiative, courage to try new things. Be it a wild idea, story idea. Could be a very innovative character design, environment design.
Yeah.
So as a team or as each member, you don't need somebody to push you forward. And also come to last, the teamwork.
Teamwork.
Work as a team, share the goal, encourage each other in difficult time, and also share the success and to celebrate together.
Wow, fascinating. And Zach, so our quiz just then really make a good segue into our last segment today. You know, it's all about employee market today and founding a startup. And your book analyzed young Chinese and the story about the 4-2-1 family structure and the little emperor, they shocked a lot of Western readers. But what are the pros and cons, do you think, about hiring young Gen Zers?
Yeah, it's a great question. And this is actually an area that our research has focused a lot over the last 2 years, specifically collaboration, be it globally or internally on Chinese teams. And so let's go back a little bit to 4-2-1 just so people can understand what that means. 4-2-1 obviously refers to this inverted demographic pyramid. You know, it used to be China had a lot of kids and very few older people. Now China has more older people and a decreasing amount of youth. And so that inverted demographic pyramid, 4 grandparents, 2 parents for 1 child, reflects a household ecosystem in which young people are raised. And if you can imagine that inverted pyramid like a funnel, it's a funnel for attention. It's a funnel for resources. You know, we were talking about studying abroad before, and there's no doubt that most of these young people wouldn't be able to study abroad were it not for their parents and grandparents helping to fund those dreams. It's also a funnel for dreams. The older generation couldn't travel abroad, and so 2/3 of the younger population are the passport holders from within China. Most of the older generation didn't have the opportunity to eat out. You know, there's a lot of, when we're doing interviews in smaller places and also big cities, you hear a lot of the older generation describe being unable to have meat more than once a year. This younger generation is being financially enabled by that older generation. It's also a funnel for pressure. This younger generation is on the receiving end of enormous intergenerational pressure from their parents and grandparents that's unlike any other generation in the world because of that unique demographic structure. Now for hiring, you know, I think what a lot of the entrepreneurs brought up today, you know, we bring up areas where we like to hire based on bad experiences that we've had. And so I think that issue of devotion came up a few times. Helping this young generation see a vision for something larger than themselves can be challenging. And we've seen that across a number of less focused, less mission-driven organizations. Gen Z has become lost and listless. I would say that there's also correlations, obviously, with consumer habits and where you want to work. In the same way that a lot of the young generation is looking for a sense of identity in the brands that they align themselves with, sort of which subculture they want to be a part of. As you grow older, our jobs, work is a large part of our identity. So finding a job that fits in with this young generation's sense of self and finding a work culture that creates a sense of self for this young generation, very important. Predictability tends to be the issue that employers have the largest issue with. For a generation that's been the recipient of a huge amount of attention and a fair amount of feeling, dependability seems to be the most difficult to instill in this generation. But that could also be a life stage. And as they grow older, as they get more responsibility, and they have more experience, I think it's safe to expect dependability will come. You have to build the work culture and sense of identity.
And Monica, talk to us about the job market nowadays. You know, in 2014, a Wall Street Journal article titled, "Where Did All the Entry-Level Jobs Go?" Many firms expect new graduates to arrive job ready from day one, and in which it stated, in an effort to cut costs, some companies have also cut entry-level jobs, made the responsibility for first-timers more sophisticated. Now, based on your experience as the owner and founder or CEO of your company, do you agree that professional careers request better prepared graduates than ever, and why? Monica, do you got me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Cool. I thought you couldn't hear me. Yeah, I think I do agree with this, that this trend is happening. I think it is happening across large companies and also like smaller startups and all that. But I also do see that large companies have they have more structured internship programs. So I'm seeing a lot more like freshman and sophomore geared programs, so that there is at least some sort of scaffolding to get the student or the university student to where the professional level should be. But overall, I think universities are also collaborating a lot with industry partners to make sure that capstone projects or even just course projects are real world. They are applied. It's about project-based learning. It's interdisciplinary. So I think with all this sort of coming together, it is kind of no wonder also that more and more companies are expecting more out of a graduate. But then that also widens the gap where if your university or school doesn't offer that as much as another, then a student might be facing that gap. Yeah. So.
And Ali, let me also ask you this, Ali. One report conducted by Utah Business shows that 75% of student startups don't survive post-college. And we have seen 50% of startups fail by the 4-year mark. That's brutal. How hard is it managing a company for, recent graduates? And when did you first consider to start up your own company?
Yes, sorry, would you mind repeating the beginning? It cut out a little bit about the 75%, I think.
75% of student startups don't survive post-college, and 50% of startups fail by the 4-year mark.
Got it. Yeah, I think, for startups overall, it's probably maybe even higher for 90% of them, or 99% maybe even fail. I think just for me as a hiring manager here, working with young students and interns, I really prefer people who come in with the technical skills, since we are more resource constrained. Comparatively, I think when I was starting out, I first worked at a larger corporation in investment banking at JP Morgan, and there the commitment to training, or they were very committed to training with ongoing classes, and the first month we spent every day learning finance and accounting, and so there were a lot less requirements to come in with those technical hard skills.
And when did you first consider start up your own business?
So prior to business school, I was working at a consumer retail incubator. Excuse me. So they're just helping different entrepreneurs launch their businesses and working from the strategy and finance side of things. Really just got the entrepreneurship bug there. And then when I came to business school, had a lot of the opportunities and resources to really kind of get my own thing off of the ground.
And Gen Zers, they share millennials' desire to work in jobs that they are really passionate about. I think this has been mentioned by a lot of guests here. And also one of our audience here, they say that in organizations, they need to have this organization align with their values and goals in order to be able to work there. So Professor Lindenbauer, how do you think companies can make jobs more attractive to Gen Zers?
I think one of the key aspects is also in companies, but also what we do at university, conveying mission, conveying what motivates us, and have an alignment there. If I talk to students, and if I work with students, they oftentimes come in being very motivated, passionate about a certain topic, and then we can help them build out the skills they need in order to solve those challenges. And that, I think, also applies to a lot of companies, that if your mission, if the problem you want to solve with the solution aligns, a lot of other things will follow.
Yeah, Jesse, you're the youngest CEO right here. Your company hires people with different educational backgrounds, of course, marital status, diverse age groups. How do you manage your team, coming from distinctive groups?
Exactly. Actually, Easy Transfer has now more than 300 full-time employees, and we have different offices in major cities in China and also in Boston, Los Angeles, London, and Australia, Melbourne. So, as you said, we have a very diverse team, very diverse management level. We have a marketing team with overseas educational backgrounds, just like me, for like about 50 people. But we still have a very large team of people with totally different age, marital status, or educational background with us. They're doing operations, HR, PR, customer service, finance, or technology, have totally different background with us. And it creates a lot challenge, enormous challenge for our management. But I believe that's the importance of mission, vision, and value shows. And we have a very clear mission that we want to help and serve 1 million Chinese overseas students and families. And our vision is to create a bank for global college students. And our value is to do the right and difficult things. So if you have a very firm mission, vision, and value, I believe you can unite the company together. You know, as a startup firm, our company management is very flat. What I mean flat is everyone can communicate with each other directly. You can talk to the founder, the chairman, the CEO, or any department head if you have reason to do so, if you want to improve the company. So we treat everyone in our company as family member, and we spend a lot of energy to design the stock option to unite everyone together. There's a very popular notion in China right now called common prosperity, 共同富裕. So what we want to do is we want to bring common prosperity to everyone, to all of our family members. We'll take care of each other. And I believe that's the company culture of Easy Transfer, and how we unite everyone together from totally different backgrounds and so diverse group.
And Stephen, how do you attract talents?
Yeah, I mean, when you work with creative professionals, it's pretty important to giving them a sense of ownership. So they don't come into your company because they want to,
a high paycheck.
A high paycheck. They came into your company because they want to have their creative vision deployed somewhere in the world and getting appreciated by everyday, people. So for me, it's very important to create a platform. So it's almost like a creator's economy. Like we can bring talents to come into our company, utilizing the tools we're designing to create their own experiences and their own, their own story, of their early 30s or late 20s, really trying to utilize this, golden period of time. We put a lot of thoughts into it, following up with what Jesse just said. Our company mission obviously is pretty important, and our vision is to unleash the potential from every public space. So, and like Jesse said, now is the best time to do this. Now is the best time to create a shared future of how we experience shared futuristic cities.
Well said. Let me put the final question to all of you. Now, what kind of, person would you like to see yourself in the next 5 years? Brief answers, few short words. Let's start with our online guests first. Zach, let me start with you. what would you like to see yourself in 5 years?
Gosh, I think collaborative. So I'd love to work with a broader group of people from within China to help bring that work global, help make it better understood, and find some real running mates who have some vision to make global impact that actually is here. So greater collaborative impact.
Wow. Okay. And Monica?
Yeah, I hope to be a national thought leader. I don't know where this is going to take me, but I've been trying to write more, pen down my thoughts. Maybe be like Zach or Professor Lindenbauer, who have published different books and articles. Yeah.
Great. And Ali, what about you?
So I think first words would be so happy, authentic, and passionate. So happiness, I think for most people, it's a work in progress, and being authentic as a brand representative, kind of relating to customers, to Gen Z, millennials, really important trait there. And then lastly, passionate, just staying curious and motivated to keep learning and keep doing new things.
And Professor Lindenbauer, what about you?
Sure. So I think a few things. One is creating significant solutions for significant problems. That's on the research side. On the teaching side, it would be enabling students to do the same thing, to tackle the problems they have in a successful manner. And the overall kind to students, to colleagues, to really everybody around.
And Blake?
So I see myself as a connector. Over time, over the next 5 years, I'd really like to be connecting more and more Chinese brands, but specifically stories and creators with larger audiences abroad. And I'd really like to bring audiences abroad and Chinese brands closer together.
Building a bridge between them.
Absolutely.
Jesse?
Very hard to say. I want to be a resourceful person. Who don't want to be a resourceful person? But in my bigger picture, I want to invest my friend, accelerate their programs, their projects. I want to take care of my team. I want to bring common prosperity to my partners and company members. So I have to be resourceful to help them. Yeah.
A lot on the plate, it seems. What about you, Ms. Johnson?
I think I'm a simple person, so I hope I'll be healthy and happy in 5 years of time. I hope that I'll have a very happy team working with me, and also hoping to bring our textile projects to more people in China and make more beautiful products.
Great. And Stephen?
It would be great to become an enabler, to enable a sustained positive change in people's everyday lives because of our products and services, and to enable our team to become successful with whatever they're trying to pursue during the next 5 years.
And last but not least, Mr. Yu Zhou.
Sure. 5 years from now, I think together with our team, we'll make at least 5 more great films.
At least 5 more great films. Looking forward to see them. Thank you very much. And that's all the time we have for today. Gen Z, also called the Zoomers, are the most diverse group among the workforce globally. And at a time when the world is mired in volatility, Gen Z is emerging on multiple fronts as the voice of reason and hope for the future. Now, the world has to start recognizing that monolithic definitions don't fit them well, and they're breaking up the typical life stage patterns and work paths, but craving new lifestyles and products for the global society. And we can't wait to embark a journey with them and see how the society changes according to their inventive proposals. Lastly, I would like to thank all the 14 student associations who give strong support to this panel. They are CMU Summit on U.S.-China Innovation and Entrepreneurship, Entrepreneurs Association, Yale International Students, Cornell Chinese Students and Scholar Association, China Development Student Think Tank, Sydney University Chinese Student Association, Ohio State University Chinese Students and Scholars Society, Chinese Students and Scholars Association at University of Wisconsin-Madison, Berkeley Chinese Students and Scholar Association, Boston University Global China Connection, Duke Chinese Students Association, University of California, Santa Barbara Chinese Students and Scholars Association, University of California, Los Angeles CSSA, University of Texas at Austin Chinese Scholar and Student Association, and Babson College Chinese Students and Scholars Association. Thank you all to your support. And that's going to do it for our show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, to all the guests joining us online and all the guests joining us here in Beijing on site. I'm Li Chuyan in Beijing. Appreciate your time. And goodbye. Have a good one.